I love maps. I use maps for print on demand. And in this video, I'm going to show you a little bit of a switch up. Instead of just a regular bird's eye view map, I'm going to be showing you what we call panoramic maps. And these maps are like illustrations, vintage pictures, and they're really, really cool. Let's jump into the weird wild world of vintage panoramic maps. All right, I'm on the Library of Congress's main website here, and I'm underneath the digital collection of panoramic maps. Now, when you get into the collection of panoramic maps, you're going to get a couple tabs here at the top. If you're in this page, it says about this collection, and you can see featured content, you might be wondering, where's the actual collection? It's here at the top. They've got a little tab right here called Collection Items. And what you want to click on is make sure you have available online a little over 1,500 items here. And then you can view it at the top with a list or a gallery. If I go into gallery view, for example, I can see a little bit more. And if you value the description, that's great. Otherwise, you could just go to grid. And if you go to grid, you're just looking at thumbnails, and there's nothing wrong with that either. I'm just going to make this a bit larger, and we can simply just scroll on through and see if we find anything here that looks pretty interesting. I think these all look spectacular. So what I'm going to do here is click on this one. This is a panoramic view of the city of Halifax in 1879. And what I really like about it, I'm going to click this view enlarged image, is it's not just a straight on above bird's eye view map. Instead, it's like a picture, like an illustration. And we can see here as we zoom in, we can see Duke Street, Albemarle Street. This is pretty cool stuff. So it's as if we're back in old-timey Nova Scotia. We can see the ships coming into the harbor, and we can zoom in and we can zoom out. And this is a really neat old illustration. Now, you're not going to get a perfect picture every time. You can see here there's a tiny fold in the top because this is most likely a scan out of an old book. And you can see on the lower left-hand side there's a little chunk missing. So I would recommend going into something like, say, Photoshop or Affinity Photo, and you'd want to digitally clean up these designs. Another thing here is you can see the map stamp at the bottom. It says Library of Congress. So I would typically remove that, and I would remove out any of the imperfections like the discoloring inside the pages. So that's basic Photoshop stuff that you could do as well. But this is a great looking image that you could use. And if anybody's from Nova Scotia, this would make a great addition to the man cave, the bar, the reading room, the nook, the library, what have you. As we continue to scroll through, you're going to notice there's a few lines that are running vertical. Here's one of Winnipeg, for example, and there's a big line that's running right there. When I view the enlarged image, we can see that there's a black line. Now, the reason for that is because most likely it's from two pages inside of a book. So we've got page number 1 here, and then we've got page number 2. So I'm going to download this image, and I'll just show you a very easy way that you can fix this in Photoshop. To download the image is pretty straightforward. Right underneath the image here, I'll just zoom out a tiny bit. So I'm on the Winnipeg page, I'm under the image, and there's a download option right here, and I can download a JPEG file, a TIFF file, that kind of thing. I'm going to download the JPEG file, and I'm going to click Go. That's going to give me a relatively high quality scan here. You can see again, you can look right into the Assiniboine River, all of the different little nooks and crannies inside of this great city of Winnipeg. I'm going to simply right click this now and save the image as a JPEG file. Okay, so I'm in Photoshop. You could use Affinity Photo, you could use any graphics design software, and I've got this now imported just as a JPEG file. So what I'm going to do first and foremost, because the background image here, this is a background layer, it's locked. I'm going to go over here and right click, duplicate my layer. I'm going to then remove out my original layer. So now I can at least edit this. I can move this around, for example. This is an editable now layer. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to go view and fit on screen so it makes it a bit bigger. And then really what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this side of the image right up to where it's black. You can see it snaps in there, which is nice. And then I'm simply going to move it. So I'm just going to use the arrow keys now, and I'm going to move it up. Now I'm going to go view, and I'm going to go actual pixels, and that way I can match this up exactly. So I'm looking for something like, for example, right here, there's this little wagon wheel, and I can make this either, well, as close as possible. So it's not going to be perfect because it is a digital scan. However, it's going to be pretty close, and it'll be a heck of a lot better than it was before, because now there's no black line. That's pretty good. As I scroll on down now in my design, I don't see any huge difference in how it looks. Now, of course, because we're zoomed in at 100%, we can see there's a tiny imperfection there in that band. But when I zoom back out and I fit on screen, that's a huge difference to how it was before. And for a vintage map like this, that can be a really nice selling feature, the difference between having a huge black line running down and not. So I would simply save this now as a high quality JPEG file, and I could use this on a coffee mug, a fine art print, even a t-shirt really. It's a really cool way that you can celebrate old vintage illustrations and maps. I just love the fact that these exist for us to use. There are a little over 1,500 maps in this collection, and there's a search feature at the top as well. So inside this collection I can search. So I'm going to type in New York, and I'm going to click the search bar. And we can see here now a few different maps come back. I'm just going to highlight these. I just absolutely love vintage New York drawings. I've actually got a really large map up in my home that I look at in my living room. So here's an example of New York back in the late 1800s. And here I can zoom in and we can see all that New York City has to offer. Now there's going to be imperfections, right? So you're going to look at that down at the bottom. You'd want to redo the way this says New York. You'd want to clean up this image. And that's definitely doable if you're working in Photoshop. What a fantastic old illustration. Here's another one. This is a little bit better resolution here, a little bit better color photo or color illustration. This is New York City. And you can see down at the bottom here, it says about this item, and it says bird's eye view of New York showing the waterfront, and then it shows you when it was published as well. Sometimes it will give you the copyright restrictions on it. It'll say if it's public domain or not. Here you go under rights and access, and you can see here it says no known restrictions on publication. Basically what that means is it's public domain, and the reason for that is because it's so old. So this is a great opportunity. You can zoom right in here, get a pretty high quality painting of New York City back in the day. Boy, let your imagination run wild. In the harbor, the old ships coming in. You can see here in the south of New York. I've been here and it's like certainly doesn't look like that today. I mean, there's definitely a park there, but there's way bigger high rises everywhere. What a cool old vintage picture. This is another one here of New York City. And I love the ships, especially in these vintage images here. Look at all the ships in the harbor. So this would be a beautiful way that you could make a fine art print for New York City. There's the bridge there. This is another one. The fact that these are free to use is just mind-blowing to me. I just love the quality of these. And again, you can see as New York City, there's Central Park way up there in the north. Fantastic. Smokestacks, old ships with sails. And then here's the last one that we can take a look at. This one's even brighter. So again, you've got options here. Again, you'd want to go in and make sure that you're cleaning up this digital image. You wouldn't just typically use it as is, but you'd make sure to, make the frame go away. And then here you've got a great option if you want to make vintage maps, and not just bird's eye view maps, but really cool lithograph illustration panoramic maps. Thanks a lot for watching. I really hope you found this video helpful. Make sure to check out my other videos like this one about how you can use public domain images to supercharge your print-on-demand journey.